Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and it has finally happened. The Black Ops Cold War lifecycle has come to an end. It has been 1 year now. Well, technically 356 days, but who's counting? It's been 1 year of Black Ops Cold War, and the game's official lifecycle comes to an end tonight at 9 p.m. Pacific or midnight Eastern, depending on where you live. And for a lot of people, Call of Duty Vanguard's already out, because if you have the game pre-installed on your console, you can simply just set your console's time to New Zealand, and then suddenly you're able to play the game. That's how it works. I play the game on PC, so I don't have the option to do that, but regardless, I'll be playing the game tonight and streaming it over on twitch.tv/NerosCinema. Be sure to go over there and check me out if you guys haven't already. It should be a pretty good time. But yeah, like I said, Black Ops Cold War, it's come to the end of its life cycle, and what is there to say that hasn't already been said? I mean, I feel like I've covered the game pretty extensively here on the channel. It's a game that I think is going to be remembered as the game that could have been, the game that should have been. I think, actually, because this should have been my favorite Call of Duty in the history of the franchise, though unfortunately, I don't think it even cracks top 5. I'd have to really think about where it would go if I rated every single COD from 2007 up to right now, but it's definitely not in the top 5, and it's for a number of reasons, which we'll be covering here in this video. Let's start things off here at the very beginning. So Black Ops Cold War itself was not ever supposed to technically exist. So the game originally, if you guys remember going way back, was originally being developed by Sledgehammer Games and Raven Software. It was going to be their own Cold War game, but apparently there was a bunch of internal conflict between Sledgehammer Games and Raven Software. They could not agree on one unified vision, and as a result, the development was a complete and utter mess. So much so that it got to the point where Activision had to step in, demote Sledgehammer Games away from this game, and then appoint Treyarch as the new lead developer, with Raven Software kind of helping on the side. I mean, of course, there's a bunch of side studios for COD every single year, but yeah, this was supposed to be Sledgehammer and Raven's, like, cohesive game. They're supposed to work together as a tag team to make this amazing Cold War themed game, and it simply just wasn't working out the way they anticipated, and Treyarch had to take over with like 9 months until launch, and then we ended up getting the product that we have today. I have to wonder, what would that Sledgehammer title actually have been like? Here are going to be some screenshots of a third-person Vietnam game that they apparently were working on years and years and years and years ago. I would definitely like to see what the original concept for Black Ops Cold War was going to be like before Treyarch had to take over, but regardless, Treyarch did take over with 9 months until launch, and then of course we got our first look at the game during the alpha. And what's kind of crazy about this is throughout this video, I'm going to be doing alpha footage and beta footage and stuff from the very full launch of the game, as well as, you know, things throughout the seasons, and not a lot has honestly changed. I mean, going from the alpha to the game that we have right now, 1 year to the game's life cycle, not a whole lot has changed. I mean, now and then they would rebalance a couple of weapons, but the maps themselves are the same pretty much. The UI is the same, the score streaks are the same, like virtually everything is the same. I think that's kind of the problem with Black Ops Cold War. I think throughout the entire game's life cycle, things got stale very quickly. We played the alpha, we played the beta, we played the full launch, and I remember at launch, I remember even making videos on this and discussing this with you guys in the comments, and I saw it on Twitch as well. The game felt incredibly stale at launch. You may be thinking, well, it's because we burnt ourselves out during the alpha and the beta, but no, I think it's because the game had to be so rushed, because it was originally being developed by Sledgehammer, then had to be taken over by Treyarch, that they didn't have time to have a bunch of launch day content. Like, at launch, we had 5 assault rifles, we had 5 SMGs, we had 3 light machine guns, 2 shotguns, 3 sniper rifles, most of which were available in the alpha and in the beta. So if you did play the alpha and the beta, you basically experienced the entire game. At launch, we had 8 original maps. 8 maps! Like, I remember back during Call of Duty World War II, everyone was complaining about the 9 original maps at launch. Well, in this game, we had 8, but no one was talking about that. We had 8 maps at launch, and then Nuketown, which came out slightly later. And again, most of those were in the alpha and the beta. We were playing the alpha and the beta, playing the, whatever it was, you know, 4 or 5 maps that we had, and we were thinking to ourselves, these maps aren't bad. They're not great, but they're not bad. I can't wait to see the rest of the game. And it turns out the maps that we had in the alpha and the beta were the rest of the game, pretty much. And over the course of the past 12 months, you would think that the game would have been updated to be made better, right? The launch was very rocky, but hopefully more content was going to be coming. Unfortunately not, guys. Unfortunately not. Over the course of the past 12 months, how many original maps do you think they released? Off the top of your head, like, how many original 6v6 DLC maps do you think came out this year? Because the answer is 8. Over the course of 12 months, 8 original 6v6 maps came out and 9 remakes. And when I say remakes, we're not even talking about reimagined maps. We're talking about straight up copying, pasting, maps like Hijacked and Raid into the game, which we have seen countless times in the Call of Duty franchise before. The only differences between, Hijacked or Raid or whatever in Black Ops Cold War compared to their previous titles is they made it so the cars they fit the 80s theme, and the televisions are like those old tube televisions on the map. Like the scenery slightly changed. Maybe they made the telephones and the TVs look like they're from the 80s, but other than that, they're the exact same maps that they just straight up copy and pasted in. We got 9 remakes and 8 original maps post-launch. That is obscene, if you ask me. Now, of course, we did get gunfight maps. Starting with Season 1, we did get the gunfight maps, the 2v2 and the 3v3 maps, and eventually gunfight became its own playlist, and a lot of people actually enjoyed those playlists, myself included. But does that really count? I mean, originally these maps were made for 2v2 and 3v3. In total, we got 9 of these different gunfight maps, but in my opinion, the problem with these maps is that they're not maps. They're basically like a corner of a map, if you think about it. Like, if you look at the map that we're playing on right here, this could be just like one section of a normal Call of Duty map. This could be like where the B flag is on a normal map, and that would be it. And so instead of releasing full maps, they gave us 9 of these tiny maps, which could be, basically all put together to make 3 full maps, essentially. And I will admit that the gunfight 66 game mode was enjoyable. I mean, weapon balance aside, with sniper rifles and stuff like that, like the gunfight game mode was actually pretty fun when you could play at 6v6 because it was a fast way to level up your guns and level up yourself and do all those sorts of things. But the problem was, and basically everything about Black Ops Cold War, in my opinion, boils down to this: the game was super stale at launch, and it took them way too long to get this kind of content rolling. I mean, really think about this here, guys. Really think about this. By the time that they got things rolling, when it came to DLC maps, DLC weapons, and just post-launch support and updates, we were in roughly Season 3, right? I mean, Season 2 literally had 1 6v6 map. Season 1, I think, in total had 3 DLC maps. So over the course of the first 2 seasons, we had 4 maps. And by the time we hit Season 3, that's when the game finally started to feel somewhat complete. But do you remember when Season 3 was? Because it was late May, early June. 7 months after launch is when the game started to feel mildly complete. Because before Season 3, like during, the preseason and Season 1 and Season 2, during all that, right before Season 3, we had something like 10 total original maps in the entire game. For the launch and then the first 7 months of the game's life cycle, there were 10 original maps in this game. We had 24 primary weapons. For the first 7 months of the game, 24 total primary weapons and like 6 secondary weapons. And it was like, this game was so devoid of content, it was actually sad. Like, it got to the point where, like, this game should have been so amazing because it was set in the Cold War and had this 80s vibe. And, like, the Pines, for example, I will always stand the Pines. This map is incredible. I love this map. It's such a cool and original idea. And some of the stuff they did with the cosmetics in this game were awesome because it has that retro 80s vibe, and I loved it. But there just wasn't really enough, man. There just wasn't enough in this game. Like, if you're like me, then you grinded the game pretty hard at launch. I think I got to like level 400 or something like that during Season 1. But then after Season 1, I barely played. You guys can see my stats right here. Like, after Season 1, I would barely make it through 1 prestige through an entire season. And the reason why is not because the game was bad. It's because there was just nothing to do. Like, I got Dark Matter back during Season 1. And you guys know me. I complain about Dark Matter almost every single video because it's been 1 year and it still looks like this. And the community manager is defending it as being subjectively good when he himself admits that he has like 4 days of playtime in the game. 4 days of playtime throughout the entire year, and he's acting like that's a big deal. Oh my goodness, man. I could go on and on about Treyarch's community manager right now, but I'm not going to. I'm going to focus more on the actual game itself because that's the point of this video. But the fact that I got Dark Matter very early on, it was annoying, but it didn't take that long because there was very few weapons in the game. But then after that, what was there for me to play for? We had seasonal prestiges, but basically you get the Prestige Master and then you're done for the next couple of months. When a season comes out, it was like Season 2, for example, we had 1 6v6 map to play with and then like a couple of DLC guns. Like, there was just nothing to do. And I think that happened for a lot of people as well. Like, after launch, after we experienced the new maps and we leveled up and we got gold camo and a couple of guns, we checked out zombies, we saw what that was like, and then we found ourselves wondering, well, what else is there? There's just nothing else to really do in this game. And by the time the game got rolling, and I will say that, like, seasons like, 3, 4, 5, and even kind of Season 6 here, the game definitely feels a lot more complete and it's a lot more interesting. But by the time the game got rolling, most people were burnt out, and that's just a problem with Call of Duty these days, is the game comes out, and I guess Vanguard's going to be different because we have 16 maps at launch, which is fantastic, and we have a bunch of weapons as well. But the problem with Cold War, in my opinion, and a lot of other Call of Duty titles these days, is they launch it in basically the beta stage, and by the time we're 6 months into the game's life cycle, that's when it finally feels like a complete game. But by that point, we're 6 months in. You know, we're already burnt out on the severe lack of content that we had at launch, and we're already just bored and thinking about the next Call of Duty title. And it's like this vicious cycle. And Black Ops Cold War was basically that for me. Like, as soon as I got Dark Matter, which was in like December or whenever it was, I was just done. I had nothing more to really do in the game. And I did start playing the game, because going back to my playtime and my prestiges here, you could definitely tell the past couple prestiges I actually started playing the game again. And it's because after taking like a 6-month break from the game, essentially, I had time for them to actually release new maps and release the Gunfight 6v6 and release all these different guns and stuff. And that's when it became fun. That's when it became fun to play Cold War again. And I found myself in seasons like 5 and 6 thinking, man, if only this game was like this back in, January, this would be an awesome Call of Duty title, because there's so much to do, like playing catch up and doing the challenges to unlock things like the Carve, and then, playing Zombies. I will say, I think Zombies was awesome this year. I thought Zombies was fantastic. It was super fun playing Zombies. I think that Dark Aether looks incredible. I really do. It's kind of a mind-numbing grind, honestly, but it was pretty fun during the Halloween event. It was pretty quick to work towards Dark Aether, but Zombies was pretty fun. The campaign was serviceable, sure. I mean, it was a new twist on the original Black Ops characters. It was fine. I played through it. I don't know what ending I got, what it would be considered. I didn't consider it a good ending. I'm not going to spoil what happens just in case, but I wasn't overly a fan of my ending and what happened at the very end. But in general, I felt as though the game itself was solid. Like, this should have been one of the best Call of Duty titles ever, but because Treyarch only had like 9 months to put it together, and obviously the global pandemic and all that stuff, it just was a game that was devoid of content. And by the time we got to the end of this game's life cycle, everyone was like, or at least everyone in my own circle and people I talk to and people I see on YouTube and stuff, we were all just kind of burnt out on the game before it even got going. And that's a real shame, because honestly, I do think that this should have been my favorite Call of Duty ever in terms of theme and in terms of like the gunplay. I love the gunplay in this game. I think it's a nice middle ground between like that Modern Warfare 2019 time to kill as compared to like the Black Ops 4 time to kill. It's like somewhere right there in the middle. I will argue until the end of time, and I'm not going to like harp on it too much here in this video, but snipers were not balanced in this game. I mean, snipers ruined modes like Search and Destroy, in my own personal opinion, because they were uncounterable. The fact that, I mean, look at this clip right here. The fact that you could just be lighting up a sniper, and as long as they were fast enough and accurate enough, they just beat you because they had no flinch. That was bad game design. And the worst part about it was snipers weren't happy. Like, the people that use snipers, they weren't happy with the snipers in this game because they're slower than in most other Call of Duty titles. And red gunners were also not happy because they're getting outgunned by snipers because snipers don't have flinch. So nobody was happy about the sniper balance. And it was like that the entire year. What they could have done was simply just give snipers a lot faster aim down sight speed so that it rewarded them for being more accurate and being faster. And then they could have also gave them a bunch of flinch like they had in previous games based on the kind of weapon that they're going up against. And then I think everyone would have been happy. We were literally talking about that back during the alpha, but they never made those changes. And again, it goes back to that idea that I don't think people at Treyarch actually play their game, or if they do, they don't play it a whole lot. We have their community manager bragging about his 4 days of playtime in normal multiplayer. It's like, dude, 4 days of playtime over the course of an entire year, and you're the community manager? Like, give me a break, dude. But snipers, I think the balance on that was pretty terrible. Score streaks, I really don't like the score streak system in this game. I mean, not only does everyone basically get the streaks that they need, I mean, the highest streaks, obviously, they're harder to get. Like, a horrible player is not dropping an AC 130, right? 10,000 score, it's not going to happen. But then you have the Air Patrol, which was like 2,400 score, something like that, which anyone could get. And it was like, okay, imagine you play a game, you grind 10,000 score, which is kind of hard to do, to get yourself an AC 130, and then you instantly die to an Air Patrol, which is a 2,400 streak. So something that costs less than 1/4 of the AC 130 can just kill it instantly. That's kind of dumb. Like, how does that make any sense? The other score streaks were just kind of silly as well. Like, basically, because of the Air Patrol ruining everything, and the fact that it was basically support streaks, and anyone and everyone could get the Air Patrol, then that just resulted in big streaks just not really being worth it, especially with skill-based matchmaking. Like, I'm not the best COD player in the world. I like to think that I'm at least somewhat decent by this point, but in my skill-based matchmaking bracket, if you want to call it that, like, everyone on the other team, at least 3 or 4 of them are running Air Patrol every single single game. Like, it's at the point where we're like calling back and forth air patrols. Like, they'll call in a streak, I'll air patrol it, they'll air patrol by air patrol, then one of my teammates will air patrol their air patrol, which is air patrolling my air patrol, and it's dumb, man. It's dumb. It is horrible balance. It's horrible game design. But again, Treyarch either doesn't play their game or they don't go on high enough streaks, one of the two. So that's just how that ended up playing out, I suppose. I mean, again, this is that game that should have been. This should have been the best Call of Duty title. If Black Ops Cold were released with like Season 4 or Season 5's content and all that stuff at launch, then it would have been absolutely incredible. The score streaks could have been changed if the developers actually cared. The snipers could have been rebalanced if the developers actually cared. I think that the ranked mode could have been better because the ranking system made zero sense. But Zombies was fun. The core multiplayer experience, I think, is good. The core gunplay, I like the weapons, the weapon variety. I think the maps are serviceable. I like a lot of what this game has to offer. But unfortunately, there was just so little at launch, and it took them so long to get the ball rolling that by the time the game actually started getting good, most people were burnt out. And they were burnt out to the point where it didn't even matter what they added to the game. People were just checked out. But regardless of that, just for the sheer fun that I had during the alpha, and then the beta, and then the full launch, and Season 1, and then even things like Seasons 5 and 6, honestly, I'd give this game a 7 out of 10. With a game like Black Ops 1 or Black Ops 2 being like a 10 out of 10, like if we're rating like these things on like a 1 out of 10, I would say the best games in the franchise are Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2. And then I would say, a 7 out of 10 would be serviceable for this game right here, because I feel as though it actually is a solid game at its core, at its foundation. I think Black Ops Cold War is a fun and enjoyable game. And I have a feeling that when Vanguard comes out and people go back to that super fast time to kill and people get over the honeymoon phase of Vanguard, I think people are going to look back nostalgically at Cold War because of how enjoyable the core gameplay was in this game. And suddenly it's going to become one of those underrated titles that people remember and that they hope to see a sequel of, where Treyarch actually has more time to put things together. Right now, the leaks and rumors are suggesting that Treyarch is working on another Call of Duty title after Modern Warfare Roman numeral 2 apparently is coming out next year. But the Treyarch title is going to be more similar to Black Ops 2, and that it's going to be semi-futuristic. So maybe it's going to be a sequel to Cold War. Maybe it's going to continue on with the Cold War story. We really don't know, because all the games are kind of blending together at this point. I think the Cold War and Modern Warfare 2019 are technically in the same universe. Now we have that cinematic where they find Captain Butcher underneath Verdansk, and he starts talking about the Pacific. So is Captain Butcher also part of that universe? Because if so, then the events of Call of Duty Vanguard are also going to be canon within the events of Modern Warfare 2019 and Black Ops Cold War. And so we could see a sequel to this game in the future. And if we do, I truly hope that Treyarch gets the time that they need to make a full game at launch. Because again, this game now, as what we see it in Season 6, is an incredible game. I truly believe that. I mean, the score streaks, I don't like that system, the sniper balancing, the stuff I mentioned here in this video, sure, but the number of weapons, the variety of weapons, the 66 gunfight maps, along with the original DLC maps that came out, and then the remakes and the maps that we had at launch, like all that stuff combined makes for a pretty damn enjoyable COD experience, if you ask me. But unfortunately, it just took too long. It just really did, and this is always going to be remembered as the game that should have been, and the game that could have been, not the game that actually was. But ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. I hope you all enjoyed my end-year review of Black Ops Cold War. A lot of it was just rehashing things that we had discussed previously, but honestly, that's how I feel about the game. I still think that at the end of the day, we're talking like 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. It's a serviceable COD. It really is. But it isn't the great COD that it should have been. Because for me personally, man, like Black Ops 1's my favorite game. I love Black Ops 2. Typically, I enjoy Treyarch games, but this one was just... I'd rate it below Black Ops 1. I'd rate it below Black Ops 2. I would rate it below Black Ops 4. Black Ops 3 is a tough one, honestly, because Black Ops 3 is one of the better CODs out there. Even with Advanced Movement, it was so damn good. I think this game might actually be worse than Black Ops 3 as well. This might be the worst Black Ops game ever. Yet for some reason, it's still enjoyable. I think it's because of that core gameplay. Just that core feeling of the gunplay, the interactions between you and the other players. I enjoyed that. I really did throughout the entire year. And I don't know if I'll ever come back to this game. It may be one of those games that I don't go back and play as much as I probably should, because it didn't do enough things that separated it from the other titles. But we'll see. We'll definitely see. But it was an interesting year for sure. And here's to hoping that Vanguard is a bit smoother and is a lot faster to release content. But ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Leave your thoughts and feedback on Black Ops Cold War now that we're 1 year into the game's life cycle down there in the comment section below. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.